All right, everyone. Thank y'all for being here. Y'all drop a comment. Let me know you're here. I see 6 people watching and nobody's commenting yet. So y'all drop a comment. Let me know you're here. That way I can say hi. Thank y'all for being here. This is So I Did a Thing. I am Chris Hennessy. My guest tonight, hey, Noor. I'm super excited she's here. Um, so God is good, y'all. Listen to this. I knew I wanted to hire a business coach, but I was going to be really, really selective about who I hired because I didn't want anybody speaking into my life. I know some really amazing business coaches, and not saying anything against them, but I was waiting. And Lauren showed up. Somehow I ran across her. Um, we met, talked in the comments, had a couple of coffee chats, and she just immediately started pouring stuff into my life. Um, from the beginning, giving me all kinds of tips and advice. And whenever she launched her group coaching program a couple weeks ago, she reached out to me, and I was just ecstatic that she did that. So, without any further ado, I'm going to bring out Lauren Rilling.
Hey, good to be
Hey,
here. Thanks for inviting me.
yeah, thanks for coming on. Somebody on your side is watching from Australia.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh, it just says LinkedIn user.
Oh,
Tell us tell us your name in the comments so that we
yeah,
we know who it is over in Australia.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know that I've ever had
That is so
anybody from
cool.
Australia watch it. Yeah, we got all kinds of people showing up. So, how you been?
Yeah. I've been good. I've been looking forward to this today. It's so
Me
fun
too.
and hey guys. It's so cool. You got so many such a fun community of people
I
who are always
do.
here to hang out. So it's a
I
lot
love
of
it.
fun.
It is fun, and it's really kind of humbling that so many people want to come hang out with me every week. I love it.
That is very
I
cool.
absolutely love it. Hey, Tanya. Tanya was my very first. I say this every time she shows up, but she was my very first client, very first person I ever
Nice.
taught how to live stream.
Awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
So tell us about Lauren. You're a coach.
Mhm.
How did you get into coaching? Like, what did you do before you were coaching, and then how did you get into it?
Yeah, I was a high school teacher and I was also in public policy research before I started coaching. But I took a little break from all of that to be home with my kids. My twins were born. And so I was like, I'm not going back to the classroom with newborn twins. And it was that same time frame that I got my master's degree. And my husband and I had made a decision a couple years earlier that we weren't going to go into debt for it. So we
Hmm.
cash flowed it. He was going to seminary. I was getting a master's. I was teaching full time. And the prevailing wisdom is you just have to take out student loans. Like that's pretty much your
Hmm.
only option unless you're making $500 million a year.
Right.
And we just said, no, like we're not doing that. And is there a way? Can we figure this out? And so we figured it out. And it wasn't easy, it wasn't glamorous, but we just worked over the course of 2.5 years to cash flow over $30,000. Also experienced unemployment, a move around the world, um, forced bed rest with the twins and a loss of income. Like there were a lot of life things that happened in between there. It wasn't all perfect. There were a lot of expenses and life circumstances that came up.
Right.
We just sort of planned it, a few months at a time, one semester at a time, broke the big goal into smaller goals and learned how to manage our money and communicate about money together. And so that was the freedom that I experienced when the twins were born, because obviously we weren't planning on that. But when they were born, the fact that I didn't have to go straight back to work to find a job just to pay off the student loans
Right.
was so freeing. I mean, that to me that's how I define financial freedom, was just
Hmm.
having the choices to do what's best for my family in that season of life. And so that really was what ignited my passion for finance and for stewardship. And so I had an opportunity to go to Ramsey Solutions and get trained as a financial coach because I was kind of already doing it. And then I learned, oh, this is a thing. People actually do this for a living.
Right.
That
Right.
sounds really fun. So I did that, and that's what really launched me to here. Now I really focus on working with Christian entrepreneurs. on their business finances, but with that perspective of biblical stewardship. And it was really just from having so many different people come to me for help with their finances, and they were business owners. And I'd say, well, how much are you going to pay yourself next month? Well, I don't really know. It kind of depends. It depends. I don't really know how to manage my business finances. And
Right.
so, your business has such an impact on your personal life and your freedom and your margin and everything. So that is just sort of the direction that I think God took me in. And here I am today. It was definitely a winding path, not like here's what I went to school for. I started doing it,
Right.
Yeah.
Nora had a question. I'm going to answer it, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of
Sure.
questions. So I chose Lauren, one, because she's a Christian, and her posts were all based in biblical truths. That was really important to me. We built a relationship. We built a friendship. She never tried to pitch me. We talked about it. She told me what she offered at the time. She didn't have a group coaching. All she had was one-on-one. That was not quite in my budget just yet. But she knew that, and she didn't push it on me. But she kept giving me advice. She'd shoot me a DM. Hey, have you tried this? Or, hey, do this. She sent me a book that really kind of flipped how I approach my messaging on LinkedIn on its head. She really just took the time and poured into my life before I was ever a client. So whenever she started her group coaching, she reached out to me. It was in my budget. And so that's why I chose her. Exactly.
And I'm glad you joined. You add a lot to the group. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Like, I'm excited. Like I start geeking out. Like, I get excited for my show, but then I know after the show, I get to go to this coaching session where I'm going to learn all kinds of cool stuff. So I get really excited about it. Yeah, business owners should pay them.
Yes. Yes. If you're a business owner, don't hesitate. Start paying yourself now.
Yes. I did have a couple of questions. You said you went around the world. What did you do around the world?
Well, so my husband was stationed in Guam. So he was in the Navy. And so we were out there in Guam for a couple of years. Guam, I had to look it up on a map when he told me that was where his, next duty station was. But it's a very small island, very small. About halfway, if you can imagine like the ocean between Japan and Australia, it's like pretty much in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, exactly. Smack dab in the middle of nowhere. Yes.
Yeah.
But it was a really unique experience. We're really grateful for that experience. But yeah, we were there for 2.5 years, and then he got out of the Navy, and we moved to Denver. So a souvenir. You know what though? Even though I don't have souvenirs, I will say, anytime that I find like a good Chamorro barbecue restaurant, you guys, you have to go. Like the red rice, the barbecue, like it's amazing. So if you get the chance, definitely go to one of those restaurants. Yes.
Yeah. Joseph Gonzalez is in the house. Let me say hi to him real quick. How you doing, man?
Hey,
Raquel just met up. Man, there was a whole group of LinkedIn people that met up in Houston this weekend, and Raquel was one of them.
Oh, nice.
I could not make it, and I was so disappointed. John had a question. How do you do that? I'm assuming he's talking about paying yourself when your business can't afford to pay you.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it would be a little bit of a conundrum, but a lot of the time what I'll do for a company is I'll do a profit assessment for them. So we'll take a look at historically where the money's gone and what are some really big, small and big changes or shifts that you can make to increase your profitability in your company. And so typically seeing that future reality is like, okay, we can find a way to make this work, right? Most people are able to are able to make an investment if they know that they're going to get an ROI on it, right? So we just find a way to make it happen, and we just make it work.
Cool. What did you get your degree in? Did you tell us that?
So I actually got my master's in political science, and then I was in public policy research for a little bit. Yeah. So it was really interesting, but this is a lot
it
more
would
fun.
be, yeah, it would be interesting.
Mhm.
I mean, I get my news from watching all the meme stuff on YouTube, all the conservatives memeing the hell out of the left-wing people.
All the memes, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I get my news.
Yeah. Well, alternative news sources are really fascinating. It has been really interesting to see, because I'm still a policy nerd, you know, in my heart. I still enjoy all of that. So I like to follow that stuff too. And it is interesting to see how in the last, 10 years or so, how just like social media in particular has allowed a lot of alternative media sources. So you get, I think, a greater variety of opinions and facts, and that can be really overwhelming, but it can also be really, really helpful, so that you don't have to just rely on one news source to get your information. So
yeah,
I appreciate that a lot.
for sure. I had another question. What's up, Kenny? I had another question and then I lost it. Dadgummit. So one of the action items for this week in our coaching was to open 5 different bank accounts. And I was going to ask you about this
in
coaching, but I'm going to ask you right now live so you can answer it. What is the point of 5 different business bank accounts?
Yes, good question. So when I share with clients that you're going to open 5 business bank accounts, they usually look at me a little sideways like, what? Why would you do that? That seems like more work. I thought we were simplifying things. We are. Think of it like if you're going to organize your pantry or your garage or that closet, at the front of your house, you need buckets. You need containers for things. You can't just shove everything into one closet and think it's going to be a good system. That's not really a system, right? What you want to have is some organization and some separation. So, it's almost winter. I don't know where you guys are from. I'm from Southern California. It's been a decade of living in Colorado, and I'm still getting used to it. Not used to this fall nonsense that's going on. No, I really do like the fall, but I just don't like the winter. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, I need to have a container for hats and mittens for my kids that go in our mudroom. Otherwise, everything's going to get lost and we're not going to know where anything is, right? So it's that same sort of concept with your business finances. There are different purposes for different amounts of money. And so if you have all your money going into one account for revenue, then twice a month you can divide it and put a different allocation for taxes, for your profit, for owner's pay. So this is how you start paying yourself, right? And for your business expenses. And this is all based on Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. He's a very successful entrepreneur and wrote a book called Profit First. So that's one of my top 5 business books that I recommend that people read and start using right away if you're thinking of starting a business, or if your business is already at 7 figures and you're feeling like, man, our revenue is great, but the finances are like really overwhelming, or anywhere in between. Just if you read the book, you'll get the framework for it. But it's basically so that you can have organized finances, so that you can just look at your bank account anytime and know, okay, this is what I've got in my expense budget. This is how much I can pay myself. This is what I have set aside for taxes, so that I don't get stuck with a big tax bill, in April. And it works. It just really helps manage your cash flow so simply and so seamlessly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the profit account, is that money just sits there?
Well, for a while. You will use it eventually, but the big thing that business owners do, and we've all bought into this trap of, well, you have to spend money to make money, right? So there's some truth to that, because you've got to you need some seed money to start your business, right? You're going to need some amount of funding, but what happens is we often find ourselves in the trap of spending every single amount that we make, like just putting it back into the business. We call it reinvesting in the business, but we're not really looking at our actual profitability. We're not really looking at if what we're doing is sustainable, or we're just taking all that profit and then trying something to make more profit, and it may or may not work, but we're constantly in this month to month cycle of revenue and just sort of leaving profit to chance just to see if there's anything left over. And so the idea of profit first and having a profit account is you're intentionally dedicating a certain percentage of your revenue to be saved for profit every single month. It's very, very similar to the concept in personal finances of having a savings account. You want to have an emergency fund. You want to save for a new car. You want to save for that vacation, not have to put it on a credit card and then have like debt when you come back from your vacation. So the idea is just really saving proactively, and you can have different goals and different purposes for your profit. But at the end of the day, you really want to use it, one, to pay yourself an owner's bonus. Like, how cool would it be to be able to pay yourself a bonus every single quarter? That would be awesome. And how differently would you feel? How much more peace would you have? How much more relaxed would you be? How much of a different decision-making process would you make in your company if you had 3 months of operating expenses and owner pay socked away? We do that. We know that that's like sort of the wisdom for personal finances. Well, it's the same with your business finances too. You want liquidity. You want to have strong cash flow in your business so that you can grow it. Not only so that you can we're not talking about hoarding money, but we are talking about being intentional with making a certain percentage of that revenue profit and designating it as such so that it can be used strategically for the owner's benefit and also for the well-being and growth of the company. Distributions are so much fun. I totally agree, Daniel. Like every quarter, it's a celebration. Even if you're starting with a $50 distribution and you can go get a pedicure, or like I have a client who loves to take his girlfriend out for a really, really nice dinner. They're foodies and they find a really extravagant restaurant. And once a quarter, like they go and they celebrate with that. Or, as your profit grows, it could even be like, hey, I funded my entire vacation, with a profit distribution. So that is, reward for following the plan and for being disciplined with your finances. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you haven't set up your profit accounts yet.
No. No.
Well, that's okay. We can troubleshoot it if you're getting stuck on anything too.
Yeah, I am a little bit, and we'll talk more about it in group or whatever.
Sounds good.
Anybody in the audience have any questions for Lauren? Put her on the spot.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah. Oh, I should have written some questions down, because in my head all during the day today, I had stuff I wanted to ask, but I was like, I'll remember that. And I never remember that.
Funny. Well, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
So as a new entrepreneur, what's something that you, what's one of the biggest takeaways that you've gotten just from starting a new business? Like, what's a big insight that you've had about business or about life as an entrepreneur?
I think the biggest thing is, I used to think all the time, I'll never start my own business, because I couldn't think of anything I really wanted to do enough to do that full time. Got into live streaming, fell in love with it, decided, you know what, I can start producing. It's booming. It's taking off. I'm getting in at the very beginning of it. This will be great. But I think it's just finding the biggest thing I found out about myself is what I'm capable of. Overcoming that imposter syndrome. You're not, you don't know enough. There's people out here who've been doing it longer than you have. All the things that creep in, and finding because I've always been the guy that's, kind of middle of the road, not really great at anything, not bad at anything, just kind of middle of the road, plain vanilla kind of guy. And I found something I'm really good at, and I'm good at helping other people become good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so just figuring that out has been just like a huge game changer to me. It's been a huge confidence boost.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you find that thing that you're like, I actually have a gift for this, right? And you lean
Yeah.
into that and you really like start cultivating the skills around it, and then you create a vision. Like you have, oh my gosh, I could do this. I have this vision. Well, there's always going to be something in your way. Like there's always going to be challenges and roadblocks as an entrepreneur, but when you put them in context of what it is that you want to accomplish and that vision
Mhm.
you have for your business and the passion that you bring to what it is that you do, it's like, oh, these problems are solvable now.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole thing with me wanting to start my own business. Is I didn't want to deal with the money. I didn't want to deal with the
Uh-huh.
business side of the
Mm-hmm.
business. But now that I've found something I'm really passionate about, it's like, oh, well, I can figure this out.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Exactly. I think we got some more questions
we
too.
do. Nora said, why a business coach? Because I have
Hmm.
no clue what I'm doing. Um, like I just said, I've never wanted to start a business before, never even thought about it. Don't have a clue. Like she just said about the 5 different bank accounts. Don't have a clue how to do taxes. Don't have a clue on how to do anything, and make it profitable. I kind of started this a year ago almost now, and it was just kind of winging it. And so I wanted somebody that was going to be able to show me things, teach me things, because I wanted to do it right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, my specialty. What's my specialty? Business finance. So think like profitability assessments, your pricing, the way that your business process works. Even like I've got, if you guys want, by the way, I have a. If it's okay that I offer this to
Yeah,
Chris on your
yeah.
show, I made a profit finder. I've got like 7 different ways to find more profit in your business. And usually it's just like really simple little tweaks that you can make. So if you guys want that, just write a comment here or you can send me a DM and I'll just DM it to you. But yeah, just finding ways to be more profitable, managing that cash flow. And really it comes down to aligning it with your goals. Because when we talk about money, it's never in a vacuum. So often, I'm not saying this would be you, but often people cry in our consultation calls. And it's just because we attach money to things that matter to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can get a little bit of, it gets personal, right?
Yeah.
Money, we can't just look at a spreadsheet and be like, okay, well, here's the numbers and here's what you have to do. That's part of it. But money and running our finances and when we're talking about our dreams and our goals, it's attached to things that matter to us and it's attached to real life. And so we're talking about things like real life decisions
Mm-hmm.
that affect you personally and that are going to get your business to the level that you want it to be, not just in terms of revenue, but what do you want it to look like? What do you want your schedule to look like? What does freedom mean to you? Why are you passionate about what you do? What do you want that impact to be? How do you really want to be spending your time? How do you want to be serving others? What kind of an income would really support your life? What would allow you to give more? What would allow you to thrive? So we're talking about all of these things, and we have to make them all work in harmony. They all have to work together, and then we
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to manage that money in a way that makes sense for you, in a way that makes things really simple and not complicated. Because if it's complicated or intimidating, like you're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So it's about bringing all those different factors together and really just making the money work in a way that supports your goals.
Yeah. And you're excellent at that. Like in just the conversations we've had and in the couple of coaching sessions we've had, just making us stop and think and write stuff out
Mm-hmm.
has just been a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I'm the type of guy that I don't do that kind of work. You know what I mean? Unless I'm
Oh,
told to do it.
yes. Yes, I hear you. Well, I think that's all of us because I think every entrepreneur, if you are really going to like embrace that entrepreneurial journey, there is that element of hustle, and that's not a bad thing, but we have to be able to counter that with taking a step back and slowing down when it's the right time to slow down and doing that deep work. And if we don't take the time to do it, then it's going to be like running on a treadmill. Like you're hustling, you're running, you're expending a lot of energy, you're moving really fast, but you're not really getting anywhere. So we want to be strategic enough to know where do we need to actually slow down. And so that's really the goal of, having those, like, take time to like write this out and think through it and simmer on it and refine it and all that stuff. So
Yes, I love it. Casey had a question too.
Mm-hmm.
In profit distribution, can you recognize when it's time to grow bigger? If so, what's the tipping point? 3 months of operating costs, 6 months?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on your industry. If you can get to 3 months of operating costs and owner pay, and operating costs include your payroll, right? So operating expenses plus owner pay, you're better off than 99% of the businesses out there. So I would say start with that. And once you reach that level, see how things are going. I always say when it comes to your personal finances, whether you have a 3-month emergency fund or a 5 or a 6-month or an 8-month emergency fund, really comes down to the different factors that affect your personal finances. So if your income is up and down, or you've got a family and you're a single income family, then you probably need more of an emergency fund, right? So you kind of use that logic. Same with your business. If your revenue is up and down, like a real estate agent is the best example I can think of, feast or famine, right?
Yeah.
So they might have a month where they make 6 figures, and then they might go 3 months without anything. And so it can be very like, yeah, just feast or famine. And so I think that if you're looking at a business where it's a lot more volatile in terms of sales or like unpredictability, one, we want to look at what can we do to raise that floor of what your lower tier of income might look like on any given month, but also how can we maybe even out some of that volatility. But then you kind of look at the reality of your situation with your industry, and any unique factors in your company. You say, okay, is there anything that really would warrant more than a 3-month emergency fund? Because you have to also recognize that if you're going to grow your emergency fund in your business beyond 3 months, that's money that you could use for owners distributions or for growth and expansion. So you just want to, once you get to that 3-month point, I would say it's really a balancing game, and it's really, I would only grow it beyond the 3 months if that would seem prudent based on various like risk factors for your company. But if you're debt free, the other thing is, if you're debt free in your business, then 3 months should be fine. If you're not debt free in your company, then I would encourage you to use a lot of that profit to pay off debt, because that's going to improve your cash flow. It's going to improve the financial health of your business overall, and you're going to be able to grow at the speed of cash, and you're going to make better decisions for your company that way, rather than trying to leverage debt and having that added as an expense. So that's another component to it, when we're talking about how big of an emergency fund to have. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for asking, Casey.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Yeah, that was a
Somebody
really good
else
question.
had a question. Aaron had one up here. If I can find it. He said, out of left field, any trust in the banks and what they are headed towards?
Oh, I like these questions. So I think it's worth paying attention to. I really like the smaller banks, the local banks, and the local credit unions better than the big banks, partly because I get better customer service there. Like if you go to a big bank, I mean, this is what happened when I went. Our personal finances are at a large, one of those large institutions. And so I went into that bank branch, into our local branch, and I was like, I would like to open up 5 business checking accounts, and I would like that to have no fees and no minimum balances, because we don't pay fees for our bank accounts, and we don't pay for having minimum balances because we're transferring money with Profit First. And you would have thought I was speaking Russian to them. Like they were so confused and they were just like, we can't do that for you. And I was like, I've been a loyal customer. And they're like, sorry, we don't know how, like technically they cannot go on their computer and override anything. They can't, there's nothing they could do. So I went to a credit union and totally different experience. Like, sure, we'd be happy to help you set that up.
Yeah.
You know, is there anything else we can do for you today? And so that was just a totally different experience. In terms of trusting the banks, yeah, I mean, I've heard enough incidents, enough anecdotal stories, like true stories, but there have been experiences of banks saying, we're not going to do business with you because of your values, because we don't like you. That is a thing. It's not common. It's mostly happening to higher profile people, but it is a thing. And so one is
Higher profile people from those big name banks.
yeah, well, who had their business bank account with the big name banks.
Right. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Big name banks and high profile people.
Yeah. And the big name bank said, we do not like your mission. We don't like your company's values. We don't like what you're saying when you're speaking. So we are going to freeze your account and close you down. We're not going to do business with you. I mean, they were able to get their money out, but that's a really big pain, right? When you can't do business. So, yeah, I would say that's something to pay attention to, something to be mindful of. It's certainly a factor. I don't think anyone has reason to panic. If you are at a larger bank, I don't think you need to panic. But you know, if just to stir the pot a little bit more,
Please do.
if that's okay.
Yeah, no, come on with it.
Yeah, I mean, PayPal recently, you may have seen that PayPal recently revised their user agreement that if you spread something that they deem to be misinformation, which is just, I mean, let's just be honest, that's subjective, right? Whatever they decide that is, that they could fine you $2,500. Now, they quickly backtracked that after getting a lot of backlash from, I think, Elon Musk and like maybe someone else. I don't know if it was him, but
yeah, all of a sudden that's not what we
and
meant.
the former president of the company, like, you know, different people. So it got a lot of backlash, and they quickly like backtracked it and said, no, that's not what we meant. But it was like very clearly, yes, it was. So yeah, I think that these are things that we need to be aware of, but I also wouldn't say we need to panic. We just need to have a certain level of awareness. And if you are looking for a new bank, then maybe look at some of those local credit unions or the smaller banks.
Yep. I bank at a local bank.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. Here in my small town, we don't even have a branch of any of the big name banks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Daniel, you're pretty much right.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. So, you know, if you I think people can read between the lines, but that's just what's been happening. And yeah, I'm not like, it's not keeping me up at night though.
No, it's not me either. And like on my PayPal account, I did not have anything in my PayPal account, but I did shut my PayPal account down just for the simple fact that I didn't want to support a company that was doing that, that was saying those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And there's plenty of other payment processors that you can use.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, for sure. They're definitely not the only ones. And, you know, I even have had some conversations with clients who want to switch to a different bank just because they're like, man, I don't really like where this bank is donating money to. I mean, these are all things you can look up. You can research these things. And, you know, the options might be limited, and you're going to have to kind of pick and choose what's most important to you. You might not get everything on your wish list, but you kind of just have to weigh and evaluate, am I okay with this? Where do I draw the line? And sort of just make principled decisions. And you just have to make a decision for yourself about what's going to work best for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One thing, you know, I don't, of course, I didn't see myself ever starting a business, so this may change in a couple of years, but I don't see myself ever getting bigger than just me and maybe one other person.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't have, I won't. I don't remember where I was going with that. I won't have some of the headache that a lot of other business owners will have with a bunch of employees. But that being said, man, I lost my train of thought. I'm doing terrible tonight, Lauren. I am doing absolutely
No.
terrible. Um,
We're good. We're good.
Dang, where was I going with that? I
Well,
never ever like trip up like this.
that's okay. You were saying that you don't envision yourself growing bigger than like you and maybe like one other person.
Yeah, I had a
But
point, but I don't remember where I was going with that. I read John's comment and I lost my train of thought because I started thinking about having to read the fine, and it's not all going to show up because it's a long comment. Started thinking about reading between the line or reading the fine print when it comes to the minimum balances and fees to use the bank.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you need to read fine print. You'll any customer service rep, any bank teller
Yeah,
should be able to answer that question for you. But yes, I can empathize with you, John. That's supremely annoying when they merge and they change their policies and oh, now I got to find a new bank and yeah. For sure. If they weren't charging you fees, they shouldn't start charging you fees.
right.
Yeah. Oh, do I provide tax advice? So I'm not a licensed like tax professional. What I will do is I can, from a business standpoint, share educational content about taxes, like generally, right? Um, and I always advise you to consult with your own CPA. But it's important. One of the things I noticed though is that there's an assumption out there that if I'm having a CPA do my taxes, then I am being as tax efficient as I can. And that is really not the case. Most CPAs are not looking at your business and your taxes from a business standpoint of let's make the best tax strategy in context of your business goals and your personal financial goals. It's really just how do we make sure that it's like you give us the numbers, you give us your profit loss statement, your balance sheet, all of that stuff, and we will crunch the numbers so that you're paying the least amount that you legally have to for the IRS, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the basics of preparing a tax return. If you want advice on top of that, you're going to have to pay a tax advisor for that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can do is I can help you see how, okay, here are the things you might consider. Here are the questions to ask your CPA. And here are the different ways that you can save money on taxes. So go have those conversations and ask the right questions because your CPA can be a wealth of knowledge, but typically you need to know what questions to ask and when to seek advice from someone who is specifically a tax advisor for business owners. So, yeah, it's there's a lot of business owners leave a lot of profit on the table, and I call them making accidental donations to the IRS. So if I can help you not make an accidental donation to the IRS, then I feel very good about
that. Right.
Yes.
For real.
Yes.
No, I said I may change my mind in a couple of years. Like I never thought I would want to be an entrepreneur, but here I am doing it. And so changing my mind about how big I want the business to be, that may change again in a year or two whenever I've grown. I think is what I meant on that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to have that vision, right? Even the thought of, going from nothing to, whoa, replacing my income to quit my day job. I mean, that is like, if you could do that, then hang out there for a little bit, I kind of think of it as kind of like on an airplane, you're going up in the air and then you're at cruising altitude. Well, you're not going to stay cruising. I mean, in an airplane, you're going to stay cruising and go down, but in business, it's not about making a continual climb. There's going to be seasons where you just sort of sit with it and then sort of assess and reevaluate. So there's always time for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, just looking at, just in the short time we've been working together, looking at my pricing and how to kind of come up with that and all that kind of stuff, looking at what I can make with just 10 clients at my current price point is 4 times more than I'm making right now. Like that is like, I've been just, that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and when you have like that framework for, all right, this is what I need to make in my revenue so that I know that I have my expenses covered, my taxes covered. I have a financially healthy business with a proportional amount of profit, and I can take home this amount of income. Like you've got the foundations covered. Then you can really set effective goals, meaningful revenue goals, and not just, they're not arbitrary now, right? They actually mean something, and you can really track your progress and work towards those. Which you guys better hire Chris, because I keep making him increase his prices. So sorry. You guys better hire him quick.
Daniel had a really good question. What's the threshold for creating an LLC versus a corporation?
Oh, good one. These are really good questions.
Yeah.
So there's not a threshold, like a legal threshold. An LLC is a legal structure. It protects you from personal liability. But you can still elect to be taxed as a sole proprietor or elect to be taxed as an S corporation. So when you elect to be taxed as a sole proprietor, like you haven't formed an S corp, then what happens is any net profit, you get taxed on all the net profit as though it's your own personal income that you're taking home. So you might not be taking all of that home. You might leave some of that in your business account, but you're getting taxed on the whole thing. So whatever that, let's say that your spouse works a W-2 job, and so anything that you're getting taxed on at that upper marginal federal tax bracket. But you are also paying the full amount, 15.3% in payroll taxes. So if you had a pay stub and you've seen the amount that gets taken out for Medicare and Social Security, it's like roughly 7.5% or 7.6%, something like that. That's because you're paying half of it out of your paycheck. The employer is paying the other half of it. And when you are self-employed, you get to pay the whole thing. Now, when you become an S corporation, or you can still be an LLC, but you're electing to be taxed as an S corporation, you can pay yourself the same amount, but you're being paid in two different ways: wages and distributions. So when you become an S corporation, the IRS sees you as an employee of the company or as an officer of the company. And so it's like this company is now a separate entity, if that makes sense. And so they require you to take a reasonable wage, which just basically means in your industry, what would be a reasonable salary if you were not self-employed? And then the remaining portion of your income can be a distribution. And so a lot of accountants will say, well, kind of general rule of thumb is like a 50-50 or 60-40 split. Why does this matter? Because you do not pay self-employment tax on the portion that is counted as a distribution, as an owner's distribution. So you're saving a lot of money on taxes. That being said, to John's point, if you have an S corporation, there's more paperwork involved. There's a little bit more red tape. It's not insurmountable. Don't let it stop you if that's the right thing for your business. But yeah, there's just some formalities, and then your tax preparation is going to cost more. So you want to make sure that the tax savings are going to offset the increased cost to do your taxes and all of that, right? So roughly, most accountants will tell you that like $40,000 to $50,000 in net profit is when you want to start looking at becoming an S corporation, and then you'll save a lot in taxes. So again, it's individual. So talk with your CPA about that. But that's a good general guideline to look at. Candy corn purchases at the marketing.
Yeah, don't entertain him. Don't entertain it.
I guess it depends on how you use the candy corn, but I just don't advise buying candy corn to begin with. I'm not a fan.
Thank you. Real quick, very, very quickly, what do you mean by distribution?
Good question. So it's just money that you are paying yourself that is not counted as part of your salary. So you like money that
Okay.
you just take as from the business, and it's not taxed as part of your owner's wages. You actually have to report to the IRS now what that reasonable wage is that you're taking. They're tracking this better now, and they just hired 72,000 new employees. So really be on top of this. If you're an
Hey.
S corporation and you're really at the really low end of taking a reasonable salary, or you're like, I'm going to pay myself $500 in wages and then $10,000 in distributions to limit my tax. Don't do that, because that's a really great way for the IRS to flag you for an audit. So just try to be in compliance with that.
Did I have your website right? It's laurenrilling.com, right?
Yep. Yeah, you got it.
Good deal. All right, guys, we are out of time. Lauren, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Next week I have Sarah Kasabian on. I think I pronounced his name right. He's a coach for dads, and he posts some really just fire content, really edgy kind of stuff to make you stop and think. You might have seen we got on a Zoom one time and just recorded like 15 minutes of a conversation and have chopped it up and used it as content just to use it. That's the whole purpose we got on the Zoom, was just for that. So it was really fun. I'm looking forward to that. Y'all connect with Lauren. Connect with her here on LinkedIn. Go to laurenrilling.com. And that is it, y'all. I appreciate y'all showing up and wading through all my oopses and brain farts today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys. Yeah, connect with me if we're not already connected. That would be great.
Yep. All right. And I'm fixing to get off of here and get on a Zoom with Lauren. So
yeah, on to the next meeting.
Yeah. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Thanks, you guys.